my room in Media, Pennsylvania. It's 23 days to the Millennium. It's Wednesday morning, December 8th, 1999, 8:36 a.m. and it's 23 days to the Millennium. This is experiment number 15. These are some of the horror creatures I did. This is called a video. What we do is it's a movie on a standard tape cassette that's plugged into a VCR. And you can watch these movies from your own home. This is Pixar's Toy Story. It was the first computer-generated movie done in 1995. Over 2 million Buzz Lightyears were sold, but we didn't have enough to make demands. Back in 1997, over 200 Tickle Me Elmos were sold. This is a scene from The Island of Misfit Toys from the movie Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. We didn't know if we had enough to make demands. This is a cartoon from Peanuts. Peanuts was created by Charles M. Schulz back in the 1960s. Back in 1972. It's been the most popular strip of those days. This is a picture of the king of rock and roll, Elvis. Elvis was the most popular rock and roll star back in the 1950s and still is today. Most people think Elvis is still alive. In fact, they still see them. But he's not. This is a Warner Brothers character called the Tasmanian Devil. Bugs Bunny was created back in the 1950s and was back in the 1940s. He is as the most popular cartoon of all. And still is today. Most people think that aliens are still out there. In fact, some people have seen them.
Let me first ask you about your overall impressions of Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold in terms of their demeanor and their relationship with each other.
You know, for the investigators and for my colleague at time, Tim Roche, who spent hours viewing these tapes, it was really disturbing. On the one hand, they would point their shotguns at the camera and threaten to make the worst mass murder in American history, which was their goal. And then they could very suddenly switch into laughing and joking with each other and complaining about the girls who didn't return their calls. And they talk about their anger almost as though it's a third person in the room, an accomplice.
This was the biggest mass murder in,
in a sense,
in 1998.
Of the two, but it's clear as they talk that Dylan was just as angry a boy and that it was very much an equal partner.
Heretofore, I mean, a lot of people have suspected that Dylan Klebold was the follower, that Eric Harris was the instigator, basically, and that he sort of was the weaker person who kind of went along with the whole plan, but these tapes don't indicate that.
No, and we looked at the whole police investigation, and the ballistics report as well suggests that even on the morning of the massacre that Dylan fired just as many shots.
Anything else, Nancy, that you've learned or gleaned from these tapes that are different than what our impressions have been before?
You know, the investigators started with the notion that these were sort of two neo-Nazi outcasts who just wanted revenge.
When Eric Harris says it's going to be like blank in June, 666, if there's a question about the impact video games or this particular video game had, I think the tapes answer that question, don't they?
They do. It is impossible to discount the impact when you listen to these boys talk. Their frame of reference ranges from the Old Testament to Shakespeare to video games, but it is clear that they hope to reenact the ultimate video game. And Harris named one of his shotguns after a character from the game. And he refers to his shotgun as Arlene. And it's very clear the direct impact that these games and the movies that they saw had on their planning.
Did they mention any movies in particular? Or?
We know that among their favorite movies were movies like The Natural Born Killers and Reservoir Dogs and some really very violent movies. And they are so steeped in the culture, in a sense. They're very aware of this role that they will play in their quest for fame. This is the path that they want to take. It's the evil path they could have chosen.
They apparently, Nancy, have quite an elaborate plan, which they outlined on these tapes. It really didn't come to fruition when the crimes actually, or the rampage actually took place.
That's right. And now that the investigators have really had a chance to put 10,000 pieces of evidence together, they were planning. It was a terrorist opera in 3 acts. They set bombs a couple miles away from the school that were meant to go off for draw police away from Columbine. Another set in the cafeteria that were meant to flush the kids out of the school into the parking lots where they were waiting with their guns.
Right.
And then a third set in their cars that were meant to go off last and kill the rescue workers who would be descending by this time on the school.
How long have they been planning this?
For about a year. And they go to great pains to say, let's get something straight. People are going to say we were just copycats because there had been the earlier school shootings in Oregon and Kentucky. Said, those guys didn't know what they were doing. We were original about this, essentially. We thought of this first, and this has nothing to do with those other school shootings.
In terms of speaking of fame and fortune, at one point they say, isn't it fun to get the respect that we're going to deserve? Directors will be fighting over this story. And as I mentioned, they say they have a sort of talk about who's going to be the director.
Who they would trust to make their story.
Did they seem delusional when they were talking about this? I mean, did they really think that they would be celebrated?
Oh, these kids were totally messed up.
I think, the problem is that they were aware that, we have reached a point where fame is completely detached from merit. It wasn't that they thought that they were going to be celebrated, just that they would be unforgettable for what they were planning to do.
Ironically, the only people they talk about with any fondness is their parents. And we've got some excerpts from what they talk about their parents. They say, there's nothing you guys could have done to prevent this. Bill and Cleveland says, I'm sorry, I have so much rage. At another point in time, they go on and talk about explaining Eric Harris why he doesn't want to be close to his parents. I don't want to spend any more time with them. I wish they were out of town so I didn't have to look at them and bond with them more. It's interesting because at one point Eric Harris even says, actually, let me correct myself, Bill and Cleveland said his parents are great.
Good morning. I'm Ted Harris. I'm in my room in Media, Pennsylvania. It's Monday morning, December 13th, 1999, 7:11 a.m., and it's 18 days to the Millennium. I hope you understand.